Welcome to this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. My name is James Williams, and today we discuss what if the Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders win the Big 12 conference in the year 2024. Why are we talking about this? Well, there are a few reasons why we are talking about this. One is because it was either On Three or one of those other college football Twitter pages. They've been doing this thing recently, and they're probably gonna be doing it all summer. They're probably gonna be posting these things like 4 times a week or whatever until the season starts. Basically, post a team schedule in a picture, and they basically have the caption: "Team blank will win how many games this season?" And they did one on Colorado, and I was looking at the replies for that, and people are all over the place on this team. There is one end of the spectrum that is people basically saying, like, hey, I think this Colorado team is going to suck. I think they're going to win 2 games. I think they'll win 3 games. I think they're going to be an absolute dumpster fire. I don't think this Deion experience is working at Colorado right now. And then you have the other people at the other end of the spectrum that are like, hey, I think that Colorado will win the Big 12 championship this year. I think 8 games minimum. I can see 9 games. I can see double-digit games. They're going to the college football playoff. Joel Klatt even was on Colin Cowherd's show like a week or 2 weeks ago and was basically saying, hey, I think Colorado is talented enough to win the Big 12. And basically, the reason I bring all of that stuff up is because the reason that's so odd is because Colorado's over-under win total is 5.5, which, say whatever you want about over-under win totals, but they're usually pretty close for the most part. Obviously, you have your outliers, but basically no one in those comment section was getting anywhere near close to the over-under win total. And that's probably more likely than not if you play the season 100 times where Colorado is going to end up. Right now, if you are a person that's on the end of the spectrum that, hey, I think Colorado can win the conference, they are 42-1 odds. So if you bet that right now, they're 11th out of 16 teams in the Big 12 betting wise to win the conference. So if you think that, put your money where your mouth is and you can become a very rich man. But getting back to the topic of this discussion here today, I thought it would be interesting to do the thought experiment of what if Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, and the Colorado Buffaloes win the Big 12, because I think if they do, out of any other Power 4 team winning their conference, I think Colorado has the most domino effect for all of the characters involved in the whole sports world, college football world. I think that there's the most dominoes that can fall, most things that can be affected, and definitely the most interesting of storylines for all of college football. So let's just go through all of the scenarios that I thought, all the things that I think will potentially happen if the Colorado Buffaloes win the Big 12. The first would be is that Deion Sanders would shut up the haters. He would prove that his team building strategy of hitting the transfer portal hard, not necessarily paying too much attention to high school and getting guys that are ready to play right away from other schools that have had previous playing experience in Power 4 conferences, just basically plugging and playing your roster like that right when you take over a job. That is the new way to rebuild, or at least that is a new method that coaches could potentially use to rebuild. So I think that is a very, very interesting thing here, because that's usually, if you're looking at like the people that are I think are having fair criticisms of Deion, it's like, hey, we don't know if doing this huge transfer portal purge every single year, like they have 40 transfers coming in this year. Again, it's kind of like, hey, I don't know if that's going to be something that's sustainable and that's something that can actually propel you to success, because there is a contingent of people that's like, hey, I think you can have all the talent in the world, but I do think you need some continuity with your coaching staff and your players, because they also, a thing that no one talks about Colorado is they do have 2 new coordinators this year too. It's not like the same exact coaching staff with a bunch of new players. It's a whole new coaching staff too. So there's a whole lot of moving pieces going on with Colorado right now. The second thing I think that'll happen is that Colorado will become one of the hottest destinations in all of college football for high school recruits and transfers. I mean, Deion Sanders didn't make any home visits last year. He got a 5-star to commit to him. If he's actually winning games at a Power 4 level and going to a college football playoff, which the winner of the Big 12 will be going to a college football playoff, he's going to be getting a whole lot more recruits. He's going to be getting a whole lot of more transfer portal interest. So I think all of a sudden Colorado becomes one of the hottest destinations for recruits and transfer portal guys, if it's not already. Another ripple effect, do we start seeing more former players with no head coaching experience get jobs to become no coaching experience to get jobs like Deion did when he took over Jackson State? Are we going to see a coach Michael Strahan in the future? What about a coach Gronk? That is something that could potentially happen. Let's talk about some of the players on the team. I assume if they win the Big 12, they're winning 8, 9, 10 games, 11 games. I think if that's the case, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are going to be pretty big reasons why they are doing that. I think they are both top 10, if not both top 5 Heisman Trophy candidates. I think they are also both going to be top 5, if not top 10 NFL draft picks. I think that means that Shedeur Sanders had an amazing season and he's going to become the number 1 pick in the NFL draft for 2025. I think that is a real possibility that would happen if they win the Big 12. But let's get back to Deion on this stuff a little bit here, because if Deion wins the Big 12 year 2 at Colorado, all of a sudden, like what we said earlier, that his team building strategy is working and he is proving that he can also win on building a team and also, being able to just win, build a team and win. It's one thing to build a team and get talent, but it's another thing to actually have W's, in the standings. So if they win the Big 12 year 2 at Colorado, Deion becomes the hottest head coaching candidate in all of college football. And if that's the case, where would he go? Where would we go? Well, I did a little bit of homework on this stuff. So let's go through the Power 4 conferences, because if he's not going to Toledo or whatever, he's moving up in the world. So there's nowhere he could move up in the Big 12. There's nowhere that is going to be able to pay him the money. Because again, too, if you're getting Deion Sanders to come to your school, you're going to have to outbid Colorado. Colorado's paying, I think, like close to $5 million a year right now, I believe. So I don't think he's going anywhere in the Big 12. You go to the ACC, you look at the schools that would potentially be a school that Deion would go to: Florida State, Clemson, Miami. None of those schools are going to be hiring. I also wrote down North Carolina. I don't know if North Carolina would want to pay that. I also don't know if Deion would want to go to North Carolina. So I don't think there's anywhere in the ACC. The Big 10, you look at Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Michigan State, USC, Oregon, Washington. All those guys either have just hired a coach or have coaches on recent extensions or very big buyouts. So I don't think any of those schools would be a place that Deion would go. The only place that I thought maybe would be UCLA, because they kind of had the weird Chip Kelly situation, but that situation doesn't even seem like it's going to work because they aren't necessarily a school that's been wanting to spend in the NIL or even on coaching. So I don't see that working. So I don't think no Big 10 schools would be available that Deion would want. The SEC, Alabama, no. Auburn, no. Georgia, no. Texas A&M, no. Texas, no. Oklahoma, no. Missouri, no. Tennessee, no. Why am I blanking? Kentucky, no. Not a lot of options in the SEC unless you look at these schools. Arkansas might be looking for a new head coach next year. Could you imagine Deion getting that chicken money and all of a sudden you got Deion Sanders and John Calipari being your men's basketball coach and your football coach on the same campus? Is that campus big enough for the two of them? I don't know. South Carolina, maybe, but even though I don't know, I don't see that fit. So then if any of these would be the most likely, Florida? Would Deion really go to his alma mater's most bitter rival? I know he's upset that Florida State didn't hire him a few years ago, but would he really go to Florida? I don't see that. I still don't see that. Florida would have to pay him a bunch of money. I do think Billy Napier is going to get fired this year, but that's the only job that I could see happening. And I personally don't see any of those being jobs that Deion would feel like, hey, I got to take it. I got to go take it. I got to go to Gainesville. I still can't see it. So, with that being said, I'm not sure if there is a job in college football that Deion would take. So, if Colorado and Deion Sanders win the Big 12, does the NFL come knocking? Does maybe the team with the number one draft pick that might be looking at a certain Colorado quarterback who might be the certain son of a guy that they want to hire to be their head coach come calling? I think if Colorado wins the Big 12, it's in the realm of possibilities that Deion Sanders becomes the head coach of an NFL team that is drafting very high in the NFL draft. Because if you're drafting very high in the NFL draft, you might not have liked the job that your coach was doing the previous season. And I think that Deion will draft his son Shedeur, and Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders might be playing or might be competing in the NFL together as a head coach quarterback combo, a father son combo, week 1 NFL 2025. These are the ripple effects that I see happening if Colorado wins the Big 12. Again, I want to say here for some people that might not know me well, I don't see this happening. I do not think Colorado will win the Big 12, but I thought this would be kind of a fun thought experiment to go through and just lay out these options because man, talk about like storybook. Talk about things that Hollywood writers would love to write because that would be absolutely amazing. That'd be an absolutely incredible story. Another few things here too. I think that Colorado maybe be the most watched team in college football next year if they're just tearing apart the conference. So yeah, there you have it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments on this video. Is there anything I missed? Is on what they would potentially do if they win the Big 12? Again, this is just a thought experiment. I'm not making predictions. I don't think this is going to happen, but I just thought I would go through the thought experiment of what would actually happen or what could potentially happen if they win the conference. So let me know if there's anything I missed out. Again, let me know in the comments if you like this video. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, and leave a comment. Even if you don't have any comments or anything, just leave a comment that says, "Hey, you're very handsome." Doing all that stuff helps us out tremendously in the algorithm. It helps push us to more people that can see this content and helps our channel grow. So if you do all of those things, I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching this episode of the Sports Detective Podcast Show. I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for watching.